My name is Asher Zubair and you're watching Euro News. Today we'll be talking about safety regulations on board oil rigs. As you may or may not remember, back in 1988, this happened. That is the Piper Alpha, an oil rig that exploded back in 1988, killing 167 people. This explosion was a major eye-opener to the offshore industry about safety hazards that existed on offshore platforms. So, what happened? Well, the original modules on the Piper Alpha were carefully located for maximum safety. However, this safety feature was diluted when the new gas compression units were installed right next to the control room. Even more danger arose when Occidental Petroleum, which was the operator of the rig at the time, decided to keep the oil rig producing oil and gas while it went through construction and maintenance. Then, the accident. Lack of communication at a shift change meant that the new staff weren't aware that they shouldn't use a key piece of pipework that had been sealed with a temporary cover and no safety valve. This led to a gas leak which quickly found an ignition source. The firewalls that would have coped with a fire couldn't cope with the ensuing gas explosion. This disaster led to a lot of regulation changes in the offshore industry. In 1992, the Offshore Installations Regulations were signed into the law. These regulations require the operator of a rig to provide details about the health and safety management, as well as the major accident hazard control systems on the installation. The regulations also require the operator to identify any risks on board and reduce them as much as they can, as well as provide a temporary safe refuge on board and make plans for evacuation and rescue in case of an emergency. Oil and Gas UK also published guidelines that identified risk areas on oil rigs, as well as the procedures most suitable to control them. The responsibility was then on oil and gas companies to reduce the risks however they could. Now, these seem like a lot of regulation changes and they seem to have worked for the most part. However, more recent oil spills, such as the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, make people wonder whether these regulations have actually worked. I have here Mr. Jeb Biryani who will tell us more. Mr. Biryani, could you tell us a little bit more about the Deepwater Horizon oil spill?
Yes, thank you, sir. Well, you see, the Deepwater Horizon was an oil rig that was owned by Transocean, but at the time it was leased to BP, a British multinational oil and gas company. Crew member on board the Deepwater Horizon, Jimmy Harrell, he had just been awarded a safety award because the rig had been gone 7 years without a single accident big enough to halt operations. Just a few moments after that award was given, a surge of natural gas blew through the concrete core that had just been installed. Once the gas had leaked through the broken core, it wasn't long before it found a source of ignition and it exploded. After the accident, it had become known that a similar incident took place in another BP-owned oil rig that was placed over the Caspian Sea. The cores in both incidents were probably too weak to withstand the pressure of the gas surge because the concrete mixture had been mixed with a nitrogen gas to help speed up the curing process.
Wow, that's really interesting. I had no idea the crew was given a safety award just moments before the accident. Pretty ironic, huh? Well, can you tell us a little bit more about who you would say the blame would fall onto and what regulations came into play here?
Yes, of course. Well, you see, sir, when we're talking about the blame in this specific situation, a United States judge had a rule that BP was quote-unquote grossly negligent in the situation and would be subject to enhanced civil penalties. And in 2012, BP had actually they had agreed to accept criminal responsibilities for this accident, and they paid the US government $4.5 billion. As for talking about regulations, the Deepwater Horizon had went through all the regulations that you had just mentioned before, and the accident still happened. So after the accident, some people decided that some more regulations were necessary. So, that accident does not happen again. In 2016, like 6 years after the accident, the Obama administration unveiled a final set of regulations that aim to prevent the kind of equipment failures that led to this terrible disaster. These new regulations, they tightened the control on the blowout preventer, okay, the BOP. The blowout preventer, it is kind of like the last line of defense against explosion in undersea oil or gas well. These new regulations, they also added the tougher design requirements of the undersea wells, as well as the lining that coats these wells. These new regulations, right, they were created with the one goal to prevent another accident like this Deepwater Horizon accident. They wanted to prevent this thing from happening again somewhere else because it was a very, very bad disaster. You know, no one was happy with this.
But not all people were convinced that these new regulations would help, were they?
No, sir, not at all. In fact, some environmentalists expressed a lot of skepticism over these new regulations. In fact, what is her name? Jacqueline Savitz, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. She is the vice president of the advocacy group Oceana. She actually said that the proposed rule is absolutely not sufficient to protect our oceans, but it is a significant improvement over the status quo and addresses some of the blowout related concerns raised by various commissions following the BP disaster in 2010. The only way to truly ensure that there will never be another disaster of the magnitude of the Deepwater Horizon is to stop drilling offshore. So basically, this woman, Jacqueline Savitz, I really hope I'm pronouncing that name right. I'm very sorry if I'm not. I think, based on what she has said, I'm inferring that she does not want this offshore oil drilling to happen at all because it is a danger to the environment, you know, around the oceans and the marine life and stuff like that. You know, it can be a very big danger, but I feel like there are also some great benefits. But that is just my opinion.
Ah, I see. Well, thank you, Mr. Briani, for sharing that news with us, and we really appreciate having you here on Your News. Can we please get a big round of applause for Mr. Briani?
Yeah, thank you for listening to me. Goodbye, sir. Goodbye.
As you heard Mr. Briani say, the Deepwater Horizon followed all the regulations that were placed after the Piper Alpha, yet the accident still happened. We can't always blame government regulations for accidents like these, and we had no right to expect the government to add more rules to stop accidents like this from happening again. But they did. What happened that night on the rig was a terrible disaster, but we did learn from it, and we did add more regulations to stop it from happening again. Maybe the president of Oceana is right, but I don't think the government is willing to stop all offshore oil production just yet. Another thing that people don't realize is that there are way more people affected by these oil spills than just the oil and gas companies and the government. The people that work on these oil rigs and the people that have to clean up these oil spills have their lives affected a lot as well. The people working on oil rigs don't want to go to work every day worrying for their life because of accidents like these. And the people that have to clean up these oil spills don't want to spend years of their life cleaning up something that wasn't their mess in the first place. These are also people we have to worry about when we think of accidents like these. Not just the money lost by the companies or the environmental protests, but the people that are affected. All of them. I'm sure that oil and gas companies don't plan for these accidents to happen, and that the government doesn't want them to happen either, but they still happen. And at least the government is doing something about them. Whether we believe in the companies or the government's decisions is our choice, and we have the right to believe whatever we want. Thank you for listening, and have a great day. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, hit that thumbs up button below. Don't forget to comment and subscribe, and hit that little bell icon so you never miss one of our uploads. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.